They didn't call it aesthetic back then. They didn't photograph it for approval. And no one cared if the colors matched. Yet somehow, Christmas in the 1960s and 1970s felt fuller. The lights hummed. The glass was fragile. The decorations itched. And every year, the house transformed into something imperfect, noisy, and alive. Hello folks, I am Walter, and today, we're stepping back into that living room, the one with thick carpet, glowing windows, and a console stereo playing softly in the background, to revisit 25 Christmas traditions from the 60s and 70s that quietly disappeared. Some vanished for safety reasons. Others because we stopped slowing down long enough to notice them. But every one of them left a mark. Stand close to a Christmas tree in the early 1960s and you'd notice something strange. The lights weren't static. They were alive. Bubble lights, first introduced in 1946, reached their peak decades later. Each bulb contained colored liquid sealed inside thin glass. As the filament heated, the liquid began to rise, bubble, and fall endlessly. It took patience. Sometimes 5 minutes before the first bubble appeared. Children waited, leaned in close. There was no remote control, no instant glow. Just anticipation. They were fragile, power-hungry, and slightly dangerous. Parents worried about broken glass and mysterious liquid. Utility bills climbed. And by the mid-1970s, energy concerns and safety standards pushed bubble lights aside. Modern LEDs can't replicate them. They don't get warm enough. And what we lost wasn't just the bubbles. It was motion. The sense that the tree itself was participating. By the late 1960s, tradition took a sharp left turn. Out went pine needles. In came aluminum. These shimmering metallic trees, made by the Aluminum Specialty Company, looked futuristic. Bottle brush branches caught light from every angle. But you couldn't put regular lights on them. Metal conducts electricity. So families used color wheels, rotating discs that cast shifting hues across the tree. Amber. Constant movement. It felt modern, slightly rebellious. Then in 1965, A Charlie Brown Christmas aired. And suddenly, aluminum trees symbolized something hollow. Sales collapsed. By 1969, they were gone. Before plastic ruled the tree, glass did. Shiny bright ornaments became a post-war staple, mass-produced but still delicate. Hand-painted stripes. Vivid colors. Silvered interiors that reflected everything, including the glow of old televisions. Hanging them felt ceremonial. One slip and the season shattered. Every family had a box. Every box had casualties. Those chipped ornaments were quietly placed toward the back of the tree, still included, still valued. They weren't disposable. They were handled. Today, collectors search for them because they represent a time when fragility demanded care, not convenience. Every house had them. Tall plastic candles standing in front of the windows, glowing steadily through frosted glass. They didn't flicker. They hummed. Plugging them in was often a child's job, a small responsibility that felt important. As night fell, neighborhoods lit up together. No timers. No apps. Just light, left on until New Year's. Tree toppers didn't just sit still. The Bradford celestial star rotated. Internally, quietly, multicolored panels projected shifting light patterns across walls and ceilings. It wasn't subtle, it was an indoor light show. For a time when outdoor displays were minimal, this felt extraordinary. Today, working originals sell for over $100. But their real value was the atmosphere. Heavy glass. Scalloped edges. Inside, ribbon candy fused together by time and humidity. Sugar jellies dusted in crystals. They appeared after Thanksgiving and stayed until January. Rarely eaten. Always admired. They were decorations disguised as food, sticky, imperfect, and strangely comforting. Angel hair snow made everything sparkle. It was also spun glass. Touch it once and you remember it forever. Itching hands, fibers clinging to clothes. But families used it anyway, because the light reflection was unmatched. Cleanup lasted weeks. The memory lasted decades. Health concerns eventually ended it. In 1973, Hallmark introduced keepsake ornaments. For the first time, ornaments weren't just decorations, they told stories. Each year added a new chapter. A birth, a family trip, a graduation, a wedding. Trees became timelines, each branch a memory, each ornament a marker of life's moments. Collectors now hunt early editions, scanning catalogs and trading online, but their true worth wasn't monetary. It was emotional, a small, tangible way to hold onto the past, to revisit laughter and milestones with every twinkle of the lights. These weren't bought off a shelf. They arrived as kits. Flat pieces of felt. Small envelopes of sequins. Thread wound tightly on the cardboard. Instructions are folded thin from being read too many times. They had to be built. Evenings were spent stitching at the kitchen table or under a lamp in the living room. The work was slow, deliberate. One sequin at a time, pressed through felt, secured, repeated. Thousands of them. No shortcuts. No way to rush it. Names were added last. Carefully measured. Hand-stitched letters that never quite lined up the same way twice. Each curve of thread carried hesitation, correction, and intent. When they were finished, they didn't look perfect. Edges wandered. Faces tilted. Colors clashed slightly. The stockings sparkled unevenly, catching light where the sequins weren't quite aligned. But they were unmistakable. You could identify who they belonged to from across the room. They were hung proudly. Not because they were flawless, but because they were finished. These stockings weren't fast. They demanded patience, repetition, and time that couldn't be multitasked. You couldn't scroll while making them. You had to sit still. And that was the point. They weren't decorations. They were proof that someone had spent weeks doing something slowly, for a moment that would last only a morning. Hand-painted ceramic trees glowed softly from within, their tiny bulbs casting a warm, flickering light across the room. Plastic ornaments scattered reflections like jewels, catching the eye with every subtle movement. They perched proudly on TV consoles while vinyl records crackled nearby, filling the air with familiar songs and the gentle hum of family life. Many of these treasures still exist today, quietly waiting on shelves, guardians of memory and the soft magic of Christmases long past. They were made of cardboard and glue. Small houses with peaked roofs, cut windows, and doors drawn by hand. The roofs were brushed with glitter that never stayed where it was supposed to. Light came from inside. A single bulb, warm and dim, was placed carefully so it wouldn't scorch the walls. When the tree lights went on, the village followed. Windows glowed. Shadows shifted. The illusion held. Families built entire towns beneath the branches. Rows of houses. A church. Sometimes a train track loops around the edges. Everything arranged on cotton batting meant to look like snow. It compressed over time, sagged in the middle, and had to be reshaped every year. Nothing aligned perfectly. Buildings leaned. Streets curved without reason. Scale was inconsistent. A church taller than the houses, a bridge that led nowhere. But no one corrected it. Precision wasn't the goal. Each year, pieces were repaired. A roof reglued. A wire bent back into place. The village changed slightly, not because it was redesigned, but because it aged. These towns weren't purchased whole. They were assembled, adjusted, and remembered. That's why they worked. Before playlists, before streaming, there were records. Firestone. Goodyear. Promotional albums filled living rooms with the voices of Bing Crosby, Nat King Cole, and the smooth croon of holiday classics. The needle dropped, the vinyl crackled, and the music spilled into every corner, weaving itself into the rhythm of family gatherings, laughter, and conversation. That warm, imperfect sound became part of Christmas itself, a soundtrack that lingered long after the presents were opened. For $3.99, families bought a can and turned the house into winter. Windows, mirrors, porch railings, nothing was off limits. Sometimes the snow went on evenly, almost elegantly. Sometimes it clumped, streaked, or ran halfway down the glass before anyone could stop it. Before 1969, the powder contained asbestos. No warnings. No labels. No second thoughts. No one knew. Cleanup took months. Faint outlines lingered on window panes long after the tree came down. Corners held residue until spring light finally revealed it. But it was participation, not perfection. Everyone sprayed. Everyone laughed. The mess proved you were part of it. Some families still lit real candles on their trees. Not for the evening. For minutes. The room went quiet. Buckets of water sat nearby. Someone watched the clock. Someone stood ready. Fire departments warned against it for decades. Insurance companies documented the losses. By the 1970s, the practice faded under reports, regulations, and reality. But for those who remember it, the glow was different. Small flames reflected in glass ornaments. Light that flickered, not hummed. The tree felt alive, briefly, dangerously so. It wasn't safe. It wasn't practical. But it was unforgettable. By 2025, the candles will be gone. What remains is the memory of a light that asked everyone to pay attention. Glass bottles shaped like Santas, snowmen, and sleighs lined the bathroom counter. They held aftershave or cologne, faintly scented, rarely opened. They weren't there to be used. They were there to be seen. Each Christmas added another bottle. Together, they became a quiet collection, proof that the season had arrived, and that some things were meant to last rather than disappear. Every year there was one truck. Solid metal. Heavy in the hand. Real lights that actually worked. Children waited for it. Not just the gift, but the moment. Which model would it be this time? A fire engine? A dump truck? A tow truck? It wasn't something forgotten by January. It stayed on shelves, rolled across floors, and survived years of play. It wasn't just a toy. It was anticipation made tangible, something you could hold, remember, and wait for all year. Yarn stretched across doorways, a makeshift garland for the season. Clothespins clipped glittering cards, each one a tiny message of love and thoughtfulness. Every card meant someone remembered, took the time, reached out. Mail carriers hustled through snow and wind, delivering these tokens of connection. Before texts and emails, connection was physical, tangible, deliberate, and deeply felt. Woolworth's chalky figures chipped and cracked with time. Paint flaked. Edges wore down. Some were glued back together more than once. They weren't replaced. They were repaired, taken out carefully, then packed away again. What made them matter wasn't how they looked. It was the fact that they came back every year, familiar, imperfect, and still waiting. It comes out only once a year. The Lenox china was never stacked casually or grabbed in a hurry. Each plate was lifted slowly, fingers placed just so along the rim. The gold trim caught the light. Someone always reminded the children to be careful, not sharply, but seriously. This was not everyday dinnerware. This was ceremonial. Setting the table took time. A pressed tablecloth, polished silverware, napkins folded with intention. The room felt different once it was done, quieter, almost reverent. You knew, without being told, that something important was about to happen. Meals eaten from Lenox china weren't rushed. Conversations lingered. Chairs stayed pulled in. Even the food tasted different, as if the weight of the plate beneath it demanded respect. After the meal, everything was washed by hand. No shortcuts. No dishwashers. Plates dried on towels, then wrapped carefully and returned to the cabinet where they would wait, untouched, for another year. China wasn't about luxury. It was about the occasion. It marked the moment when an ordinary house became a place of gathering, memory, and continuity. A quiet signal that this meal mattered, and that the people sharing it did too. When the Lenox came out, Christmas had truly arrived. A piece of furniture, sturdy and familiar, stood in the corner of the living room. A source of sound, humming quietly, waiting for its moment. Dad lowered the needle onto the spinning record. The room held its breath. Everyone listened, caught between the crackle of vinyl and the first notes that promised something magical. Oversized plastic candy canes lined the driveways, towering like sentinels of holiday cheer. Unapologetic. Their stripes gleamed under the winter sun, demanding attention. It was the beginning of the outdoor decorating excess, the first hint that the neighborhood had surrendered to the season, each house trying to outshine the last. Lefton and Goebel figurines balanced the chaos of the living room, delicate and precise amid the clutter. Tiny hands, gentle faces, and painted flowers demanded a moment of pause. They still sit on shelves today, guardians of memories, watching silently as the world around them changes. It was heavier than anything that came after it. Each strand fell straight, not because it was arranged, but because gravity allowed it no other choice. Lead tinsel didn't curl. It didn't cling. It dropped cleanly from branch to branch, forming perfect silver lines that stayed exactly where they were placed. There was no shine design to impress. Just a muted, metallic glimmer that caught the lights and held them steady. The tree looked composed, finished, almost architectural. Handling it required care. Not because it was fragile, but because it mattered. You lifted it deliberately, strand by strand, letting it settle naturally. Once it was on the tree, you didn't adjust it again. It had already found its place. In 1972, lead tinsel was banned. Concerns about toxicity ended its production almost overnight. What followed was lighter, brighter, safer, but also restless. Plastic replacements floated, tangled, refused to fall straight. They shimmered, but they never stayed still. The weight was gone. And with it, something else disappeared. The sense that decoration could be restrained. That beauty could come from stillness instead of sparkle. The tree didn't need movement to feel complete. Nothing that replaced lead tinsel ever behaved the same way. And nothing ever felt as final once it was hung. Cheese balls shaped like hedgehogs, tiny and playful, rolled across platters with a mischievous charm. Aspic molds shimmered like jewel-toned sculptures, wobbly and mesmerizing under the dining room light. Deviled eggs, piped with care, sat in neat rows, each swirl a quiet testament to patience. Not fancy, intentional. Every bite, every shape, a small act of thoughtfulness that transformed a simple gathering into something memorable. Not objects. Patience. Participation. Christmas wasn't smoother then. It wasn't polished or perfect. It was messier, wrapping paper strewn across the floor, half-finished decorations, laughter spilling over small frustrations. And maybe that's why it stayed with us, lingering in memory like the scent of pine and the warmth of being together, imperfect but unforgettable. If you could step back into one moment, just one, which would it be? Tell us in the comments. This is Walter's time capsule, preserving the details we almost forgot. And if this brought something back, consider subscribing. Some memories deserve to be handled carefully, just like glass ornaments.